Usually when you get a medical diagnosis, there's this expectation of absolute precision.
Oh, definite. Like engineering.
Right, exactly. You break your arm, the x-ray shows a jagged white line, and the doctor just points to the film and says, well, there it is, broken.
We really crave that kind of binary simplicity, don't we?
Oh, completely.
I mean, we prefer our problems to be visible, neatly categorized, and, fixable with tangible physical tools.
But step into the realm of human behavior, and that x-ray machine becomes utterly useless.
Yeah, totally useless.
You look at a person who seemingly has every external factor dialed in perfectly.
Yeah.
But on the inside, the machinery is just completely jammed.
Right.
And that jammed machinery is exactly what we are dissecting today. Welcome to today's deep dive. If you're listening, you know you are the curious learner who wants to cut through all the information overload out there.
And today we are looking at something truly foundational.
We really are. Our mission today is exploring this classic book, Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, along with the updated commentary by Matt Furey. We're going to understand how your brain functions as a literal mechanical success mechanism, one that you can actually program.
What makes this text endure, even decades later, is its complete rejection of our exhausting cultural obsession with willpower.
Yeah, that grit-your-teeth approach.
Exactly. Maltz just replaces all that with a highly mechanical, scientific method for altering your self-image and, consequently, your entire behavioral output.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the author's background is wild.
It really is.
Dr. Maltz was actually a plastic surgeon performing reconstructive and cosmetic procedures in the mid-20th century.
Right, not a psychologist initially.
No, not at all. But he starts noticing a pattern that completely defied his medical training. He alters a patient's physical face, and often it drastically changes their entire personality.
He writes about this one case, a young boy with prominent ears.
Oh yeah, the kid who was bullied.
Right. He had been ridiculed relentlessly. The other children called him a moron, so he acted like a moron. He was failing all his classes.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. But then Maltz operates, pins the ears back, and this boy immediately transforms into a bright, alert, almost executive-type personality.
Just from a physical change.
Exactly. Removing the source of the physical humiliation just allows the person to blossom. But the anomaly, the real puzzle here was the other patients.
The ones who didn't change.
Yes, the ones who experienced no psychological change whatsoever after a perfectly successful surgery. This is what drove Maltz out of the operating room and into psychology.
Like the Duchess, right. He had this patient, a Duchess, terribly shy because of a pronounced hump in her nose.
That's a fascinating example.
So Maltz performs the surgery, gives her a classic, flawless nose. But her personality remained completely frozen.
She still acts like an ugly duckling.
Yes, shrinking away from eye contact, still behaving as if the physical deformity is permanently attached to her face.
What's fascinating here is that we see the exact same phenomenon with two different men carrying the exact same physical disfigurement.
Oh, the facial scars.
Right. Maltz treated a salesman who suffered a facial scar in a car accident. This man became so consumed by shame that his confidence just evaporated.
He grew bitter, and his sales plummeted.
Exactly. The scar basically ruined his career. But contrast that with Maltz's observations of medical students in Germany who engaged in fencing duels.
Oh, wow, yeah. To those men, a facial saber scar was a highly coveted badge of honor.
They wore the identical physical mark with immense pride. It actively elevated their self-esteem and their social standing.
So the exact same physical mark destroys one man's life and makes another man walk taller.
Which means the physical face isn't driving the behavior at all.
It's the non-physical face, what Maltz called the face of personality.
Or the self-image. You will always, without exception, act like the person you conceive yourself to be.
Always.
Yeah. And this fundamental rule completely dismantles the traditional positive thinking movement.
I love this part.
You literally cannot force positive thinking if it contradicts your underlying self-image. If your internal schematic defines you as a failure, repeating daily affirmations in the mirror is functionally useless.
Right, you're trying to put a brand new patch on a rotting garment.
The underlying structural integrity simply rejects it.
It's like trying to run modern software on an outdated operating system. You can download all the shiny new positive thinking apps you want, but until you update that core self-image OS, those apps will just keep crashing.
That is a great way to put it.
You will unconsciously sabotage your own efforts just to ensure your external reality matches your outdated internal programming.
And if the self-image is the operating system, The next logical step is understanding the physical machinery of the brain that executes that program.
Which brings us to the cybernetics part of psycho-cybernetics.
Right. Maltz moves from psychology into cybernetics to explain that the human brain and nervous system operate as a goal-striving servo mechanism.
It functions just like a self-aiming torpedo or an interceptor missile.
Exactly. And a guided missile doesn't fire in a perfect, pre-calculated straight line. It operates on a continuous loop of positive and negative feedback.
So it moves forward, detects that it is off course through negative feedback, and then corrects its trajectory.
Yes. It zigzags and eventually strikes the target. And for human learning, the crucial mechanic is that once the mechanism hits the target, it remembers that successful neurological pathway.
And it actively forgets the errors.
Precisely.
The text illustrates this with a baseball center fielder catching a fly ball. The batter hits the ball, and the center fielder doesn't consciously stand there doing trigonometric equations.
Right. He'd miss the ball if he did.
Exactly. He isn't computing wind speed, trajectory, and initial velocity with his prefrontal cortex. His built-in goal-striving mechanism takes the sensory data from his eyes and ears, instantly compares it to stored memories.
Past successes and failures.
Yep. It issues rapid-fire orders to his leg muscles, and he just runs. He arrives at the exact point of interception at the exact right time.
It's all automatic.
But I have to push back on this a little bit. If we all have this brilliant, built-in guided missile system designed for absolute success, why do so many of us feel completely stuck?
That's the big question.
Like, why do we miss our targets entirely? Or feel like we are flying full speed in the completely wrong direction?
Well, it's because your built-in mechanism is completely impersonal. It is a machine. It does not judge the moral value, the safety, or the healthiness of the goal you feed it.
It just blindly executes.
Right. If you feed it a success goal, it operates as a success mechanism, guiding you toward that achievement.
But if you feed it a failure goal?
Exactly. By constantly picturing worst-case scenarios, dwelling on past humiliations, telling yourself you are unworthy, it operates just as faithfully as a failure mechanism.
Oh, wow.
It locks onto the failure target you provide. The machine does not care if hitting that target makes you miserable. Its only job is to hit the coordinates you program into it.
So we are accidentally programming failure into our own mechanisms through our false beliefs and our own destructive imaginations.
Yes, and this happens because the human brain literally cannot tell the difference between a real physical experience and a vividly imagined one.
The laboratory evidence supporting this is just staggering.
It really is. The sources detail a famous study where researchers tested students' ability to sink basketball free throws.
Oh, this study is mind-blowing.
They had one group practice physically on the court for 20 days. That resulted in a 24% improvement. Another group did zero practice and obviously showed zero improvement.
Makes sense.
But the third group, they didn't touch a basketball. They spent 20 minutes a day just vividly imagining themselves throwing the ball through the hoop and mentally correcting their aim when they imagined a miss.
And they improved by 23%. Purely synthetic, imagined experience yielded almost the exact same physical improvement as actual physical practice.
Yeah, 23% versus 24%. It's virtually identical.
You also have Alekhine, the chess champion, who trained for his world title match against Capablanca by playing chess entirely in his mind for 3 months. No physical board, just pure, concentrated imagination.
Because our nervous system reacts to what we believe to be true, this immense imaginative power is frequently turned against us. We create highly detailed synthetic experiences of failure.
Like the weightlifter.
Right. A professional hypnotist can tell a championship weightlifter, a guy capable of pressing 400 pounds, that he cannot lift a simple pencil off a desk.
And he actually can't do it.
He cannot. The weightlifter will strain, he will sweat, his veins will bulge, but he cannot lift the pencil. The negative idea causes contrary muscles to actively contract.
He physically defeats his own effort.
Exactly. He is using his own strength against himself because of a false belief.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The most dramatic case study Maltz shares on this is Mr. Russell.
Oh, the voodoo curse story.
Yes. He was this vibrant, athletic guy who angered his girlfriend, and in a fit of rage, she placed a voodoo curse on him. Shortly after, he feels a small bump inside his lip. A friend tells him it's the dreaded African bug that will slowly eat away his vitality.
And his physical response to a purely fictional belief was just catastrophic.
When Mr. Russell stumbles into Maltz's office a few weeks later, he's physically aged 20 years. He's lost 30 pounds, his hands are shaking violently, his eyes are sunken. He is actively dying.
From a belief.
Yes, So Maltz examines the lip and realizes this African bug is just a tiny, harmless piece of scar tissue from a previous minor surgery. He removes it, shows it to Mr. Russell, and explains the truth.
And overnight, the man regains his youth. He puts the weight back on, his vitality returns. A false belief literally deteriorated his physical body.
It's terrifying, honestly. But the liberating realization for you, the listener, is that if you are struggling, you aren't necessarily lacking strength, talent, or capability.
You are just using your immense imaginative power against yourself.
You are the hypnotized weightlifter.
Exactly. We constantly measure ourselves against other people's standards, which structurally guarantees a feeling of inferiority.
Right.
And curing an inferiority complex doesn't mean figuring out how to suddenly become superior to everyone else. Striving for superiority is just the flip side of the exact same toxic coin.
So what's the cure?
The mechanical cure is recognizing your fundamental uniqueness. You stop inputting someone else's norm as your target coordinates. You dehypnotize yourself from the false belief that you are supposed to be like anyone else.
Okay, but
Yeah.
if we realize we are actively hypnotizing ourselves with these false beliefs, the natural instinct is to grit our teeth and use intense willpower to force a change. Like, I'm going to force myself to be confident.
But the sources explicitly warn that willpower is the absolute worst tool for this job.
Why is that?
Because willpower triggers what Emile Coué called the law of reversed effort. Whenever your willpower and your imagination are in conflict, your imagination always wins.
Always.
Always. If you try to force yourself to not stutter or force yourself to fall asleep, the sheer conscious effort focuses your mind entirely on the very thing you're trying to avoid.
You are vividly imagining the failure.
Right. Which programs the mechanism to execute the failure.
William James said we need to unclamp our intellectual machinery. We fundamentally misunderstand what conscious, rational thought is actually built for.
We really do.
Rational thought is for selecting the goal, gathering the facts, and making a decision. It is not for doing the actual execution.
Consider the roulette player from the text. A businessman noticed he was constantly agonizing over decisions after he made them, burning immense mental energy.
Which is exhausting.
Exactly. So he went to Las Vegas and observed that the smart roulette players do all their calculating, worrying, and odds-making before they place their bet.
But once the wheel is spinning,
They relax. They let it go entirely. You must do your rational worrying before you set the wheels in motion.
that makes so much sense.
Once you decide on a course of action, you have to dismiss conscious responsibility for the outcome and let your automatic mechanism execute the plan.
Dr. James Gordon Gilkey uses a brilliant hourglass analogy for this. We experience anxiety because we picture a dozen tasks and deadlines crushing us all at once.
But an hourglass can only pass one single grain of sand through its neck at a time.
Exactly. If you try to force a handful of sand through simultaneously, you jam the entire mechanism. Life only ever comes to us one moment, one grain of sand at a time.
And dealing with past mistakes requires the same disciplined focus. Bertrand Russell's method was to let sleeping dogs lie.
Right, don't dwell on it.
Once you have recognized an error and extracted the necessary data to make a rational correction, you must actively ignore the past failure. Continually dwelling on a mistake is just feeding a failure goal back into your mechanism.
You decisively root out irrational, fearful thoughts the moment they appear, replacing them with memories of past successes.
So conscious rational thinking is essentially just the control knob. We use it to pick the radio station, but we don't crack open the dashboard and try to manually vibrate the speakers with our fingers to produce the music.
I love that. Don't vibrate the speakers.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you pick the station and let the hidden machinery produce the sound. And the mechanical process for unclamping that machinery is physical relaxation.
Just relaxing your muscles.
Yes. The text emphasizes that physical relaxation isn't just a pleasant feeling. It is the biological mechanism that disables the brain's failure loops.
How does that work?
When you physically relax your muscles, you are sending a somatic signal to your nervous system that there is no imminent threat. This lowers cortisol, quiets the hyperactive conscious mind, and literally dehypnotizes you from rigid negative beliefs.
The sources suggest taking 30 minutes a day to sit quietly and vividly imagine your body becoming incredibly heavy.
Like your legs are made of solid concrete sinking deep into the mattress.
Or imagine your body as a balloon. Someone just opened a valve in your foot and you are slowly deflating.
By physically releasing muscular tension, you unclutch the mental engine. The conscious anxiety that was jamming the gears dissipates, allowing the subconscious success mechanism to operate spontaneously and efficiently.
And unclutching those mental gears natively results in a specific byproduct happiness.
Which is the ultimate end goal of cybernetic programming.
Right. It isn't just becoming an efficient robot checking off tasks.
Yeah.
It's acquiring the habit of happiness and developing what Maltz calls a success personality.
The problem is people treat happiness as a moral reward. They think, if I am perfectly unselfish and endure enough suffering, I will be rewarded with happiness.
Or they treat it like a deferred payment plan.
Exactly. Believing they will finally be happy when they pay off the mortgage or secure that massive promotion. But Maltz argues that happiness is simply a state of mind where your thinking is pleasant a good share of the time.
It is a psychological habit that must be practiced in the present moment.
There is a story in the text about an unnamed scientist who decided to test William James's theories on this. This scientist was perpetually miserable, felt like a failure, and suffered from blinding, incapacitating headaches twice a week.
Those sound awful.
They were. So he decided that for 30 days, he was going to systematically force his mind to ignore unpleasant facts. He restricted his focus entirely to pleasant thoughts, past successes, and the opportunities immediately in front of him.
And what happened?
Within 1 week, his lifelong headaches completely vanished. His disposition improved so drastically that colleagues who previously avoided him suddenly wanted to collaborate.
Just from focusing on pleasant thoughts.
He deliberately practiced healthy-mindedness, which forms the foundation of the success personality. In the book, Success is an acronym outlining the mechanical traits required for a functioning self-image.
Right, that sense of direction, understanding, courage, compassion, esteem, self-confidence, and self-acceptance. Let's actually dig into how a few of those function, because they aren't just motivational buzzwords.
No, they are mechanical necessities. Take sense of direction. A bicycle maintains its balance only when it is moving forward toward a destination. If you stop moving, you fall over.
And your internal servo mechanism works the exact same way.
Exactly. Without a clear, positive target to strive for, the machinery idles, causing existential frustration and anxiety. You physically need a goal to maintain psychological equilibrium.
And then there's understanding, which means separating fact from opinion.
This is huge. When someone rejects your idea at work, the fact is simply that the idea was rejected. The opinion is you telling yourself, well, I am a failure and I'm going to be fired.
Right. You have to filter out the catastrophic opinions to feed accurate data into your machine.
Which leads to self-acceptance, arguably the most critical component. Mechanically, your self-image cannot function if you are constantly at war with your own basic components.
You have to accept yourself as you are right now, flaws included.
You must separate your self-worth from your behavioral outputs. You make mistakes, but you are not a mistake.
So what does this all mean? Your expressed personality is always going to be imperfect, but your core self is something to be esteemed. You don't need to completely overhaul who you are or pretend to be someone else to be worthy.
You just need to realize who you already are and get out of your own way.
You don't have to wait for the world to be perfect to practice happiness.
Even when external disaster strikes, you retain absolute control over your opinion of the facts. Thomas Edison is a prime example of this.
Oh, the fire.
Yeah. He watched his laboratory, containing millions of dollars of equipment and years of irreplaceable research, just burn to the ground.
Most people would be destroyed by that.
But his immediate reaction was to tell his son to go get his mother because she would never see a fire like this again. He then stated they would start rebuilding tomorrow morning.
That is incredible.
He refused to input his own negative panic into the tragic facts. By maintaining a goal-oriented attitude, he ensured his success mechanism never shut down, even in the face of total devastation.
What we've discovered today is that your brain is an incredibly powerful, entirely impartial servo mechanism. It is a heat-seeking missile.
It really is.
If you define a clear, positive target, practice vivid mental imagery, and unclutch your need to force the outcome through sheer willpower, you can physically rewrite your self-image.
You don't need to dig endlessly into your past traumas to change your future. You simply need to feed your machine better, more accurate data today.
Exactly.
We've established that your nervous system truly cannot tell the difference between a real experience and a vividly imagined one. Consider how this mechanism interacts with the modern world.
Right. Think about social media.
Every time you doom scroll through a feed carefully engineered to provoke outrage and anxiety, you are feeding highly vivid synthetic experiences of failure and threat directly into your servo mechanism.
So what would happen if you recognize those algorithms as external failure mechanisms actively hijacking your cybernetic loop?
And what could you achieve if, starting today, you ruthlessly guarded your mental inputs and directed that exact same imaginative power solely toward the realities you actually want to construct?
It makes you rethink that opening image. You don't need a surgeon's scalpel to fix the invisible face of your personality, and you certainly don't need to surrender your control panel to an algorithm.
The only tool you need is your own imagination.
And it is already in your hands. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the source material. We hope this conversation sparked something for you. Keep learning, keep exploring, and we will catch you next time.